Hey guys, it's me again. Okay, so decided to do a new type of series. Okay, so basically what it is, it's going to be called Just Read It, title of book. Basically what it's going to be is every time I read a book, whether I have read it for the first time or if I'm rereading something, I'm going to just make a quick short video about that book. Basically kind of like a book review, what I liked, what I didn't like. Of course, there's going to be no spoilers, so it might be kind of hard to do that. But if there is anything with spoilers, I will definitely put it like in the title and in the comment section and in the little box underneath whatever the videos. So anyway, that's what I'm going to do, and basically I just have like a little format that I'll do and certain questions that I'll answer about every book. So I'll start off with just saying like the basic information, title, year, author, all of that stuff, what genre it is, and basically I'll give it a short summary. A lot of times I'll probably just read it from the actual book, and then I'll give it an overall rating, which I decided is going to be 1 through 8 stars. Why 1 through 8, Megan? That's so random. I don't really get it. Oh, I'm glad you asked. Well, it's because 8 is my favorite number, and because I'm doing this and making it all on myself, I can do whatever I want. So it's going to be 8. Cool. Fine with me. Hope it's fine with you. Doesn't really matter if it isn't, because I'm the one making the videos. So then I'm going to go through like the basic questions you might ask about like reading it. So like how long it took, is it hard or easy to read, you know, fast paced, was it something where you just had to keep going, or it just only kind of was very slow throughout the thing, you know, just kind of questions like that. So then I have certain questions. So like, what did I like about it? What did I dislike? My favorite character, maybe my least favorite character, who I related to the most, and then maybe like my favorite quote with, you know, a little parentheses S, because there could be more than one, and favorite scene, Z, I'm not going to box myself in with rules. And then maybe like, this is something that I've done in classes before where you give like an alternative title. So after you've read it, would you name it something different? Like if you had another choice, although that might be kind of spoilerish, so maybe we'll think about it. And then about the ending. So basically, you know, the book could be so good, right? Which many books are, and then the ending either makes it totally awesome or makes it totally suck. So, I mean, sometimes there's a middle ground where we're like, oh, it's alright, could have been better, could have been worse. But generally it's more like a perfect, this matched everything and made such a satisfying end. And then there's the other words like, wow, this is the worst thing ever, and you actually just ruined the entire book, and that's where fan fictions are written. And I've basically written a lot of fan fictions in my head because I'm like, I hate this ending. You were stupid. I'm fixing it. I don't know if any of you feel that way about things, but I do all the time. So, yeah. Anyway. Oh, this is something I also did in one of my classes when I was in high school. You have a question for the author. So basically, if you could talk to that author now, which, you know, a lot of the books I read, the authors are all dead because they're old. But like, if you could have lunch with them or whatever, like what questions would you ask them about that book? So basically, just if I have any questions while I'm reading a book, I'll jot it down and mention it to you guys. But basically, I'm just doing this for myself. I do think it's kind of cool to be able to have something to, just in general, a good summary of the book, of whether I like it or not. Is it worth rereading or not? I should add that. Can I reread it? Because some books are really good, but you're like, I'm never going to read this again. And then some books are like, oh my gosh, I would totally read this 1,000 times. So I'm going to add that too. I should write that down later because I don't have a pen right here. So yeah, anyway, that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to start today with the book I just finished, The Count of Monte Cristo. I'm super excited about talking about this, guys. Like, so legit excited. Obviously, the title of the book is The Count of Monte Cristo. Also, I do want to say a little bit beforehand that it's set in, well, it's set in several different places. It was set in France. So a lot of the names, like if I butcher them, I am so sorry. They're just kind of the way I thought of them in my head as I was reading it. But it's written by Alexander Dumas. Oh, and it's for ages 14 and up. Who would have thought? Actually, I would have thought that. I would have said something like that. It was first published in 1844. So it's old, but it's so good. So the genre is definitely, it's a fiction novel. It's fictional, which of course is some of my favorites. Translated and abridged by Lowell Blair. I feel like he needs a shout out because that was a lot of translating. It's a long book. Alright, so I'm going to read you first the short summary. Alexander Dumas' thrilling adventure story is one of the most widely read romantic novels of all time. In it, the dashing young hero, Edmond Dantes, is betrayed by his enemies and thrown into a secret dungeon in the Chateau d'If. I have no idea if I pronounced that right. Doomed to spend his life in a dank prison cell. The story of his long, intolerable years in captivity, his miraculous escape, and his carefully wrought revenge creates a dramatic tale of mystery and intrigue and paints a vision of France, a dazzling, dueling, exuberant France that has become immortal. I would agree with all of that. On my scale of 1 to 8, 8 stars. Like, for sure. There was nothing wrong with this book. The only thing that you could possibly maybe find fault in is just there's like a lot of violence. But the violence is necessary to the story. And I feel like all of the violence that happens, I don't want to say like was for a purpose, but it was. Like each character, like the stuff that happens, paints the picture of each person. So when there is some kind of violence or some kind of death or murder or whatever, not saying there's any in there, no spoilers, it is for a purpose. So, but yeah, 8 stars. It was so, so good. As far as like how easy it is to read, it took me probably about a week and a half. I mean, a lot of days I didn't read it because we were busy and we've been doing stuff, but like when I did read it, it was like an hour or two in the evening right before I went to bed. It is, because it's older, it is a little bit, I don't want to say slower, but I mean, a lot of people in our day and age, like I know a lot of teenagers who would hate reading this just because of the way it's written and it's just kind of oldish. But if you like classic books, like it's brilliant and it's fast and like the story moves really fast. Like there's just a lot going on. And for me, that's what it was like. Like I just kept wanting to know the next thing that happened and then it would move on to another thing and then you just, you know, it's one of those things that just spirals down and it's a big snowball and you start small and it gets bigger as it's rolling down the hill and then it's just gone. You can't stop it. And you don't really want to stop it because it's beautiful. I'm just not sure if that really made any sense. It did in my head. Often things do. Often things make sense in your head and as soon as you say them you're like, dang it, I wish I had not said that in that way to that person. Totally unrelated to what I'm talking about right now. But what did I like about this book? Well, first of all, the setting is really interesting because, you know, obviously France during that era is not something I know super well, and so getting to read this is like getting to experience that world, of course, which like with any book, but getting to experience and like learn kind of the customs and some of the things. Like there were a lot of things I had no idea, like language that was used or like even like items that I was like, what the heck is that, or what are they even talking about? So maybe keep a dictionary close or your phone with Google. I still use a dictionary, it's fun, whatever. And I loved that it's set over like several years span of time, like several years, like decades. And so you get to see the characters young and then see them like later in their lives to see like what they made of themselves. So you kind of get to walk through it and see how much can change. I think it's pretty cool. Did I dislike anything about it? Like I said, probably the only thing that I would say I disliked is just like violence, just because I just don't really like reading that stuff. With this, it wasn't graphic in any way. And like I said, it's necessary to the story. So like it wasn't something I really disliked, but some people maybe would. I don't know. If you're really sensitive. I'm gonna lean back. Oh, got a sword. Kind of fitting for the story. And then what's next? My favorite character. Obviously, the Count of Monte Cristo is my favorite character. But maybe a few of my other favorite characters. Abbe Busoni, Lord Wilmore, Sinbad the Sailor. Those are some of my favorite characters. If you've read the book, you get what I just did there. And if you haven't, then you should read it so that you can get what I just did there, because it's kind of funny. Okay, moving on. Aside from those people, I would say that Maximilian Morel is my other favorite character. Yes, love him. So when you're reading and you meet him for the first time, just remember in your head, this is one of Megan's favorite characters. I should remember him for the next time that he pops up in the story. That's another thing I really like. Just going back to the question before, is that there's so many different characters in here, which I guess could also be a dislike because it kind of gets confusing sometimes, but like, you just kind of have to remember. It's one of those things where like you read the person and then they pop up like way later and it's like, what? How did this even tie in? That's amazing. So it is important to kind of recognize the characters, like just keep an eye out for the people that you meet because you never know when you're going to see them again. Who did I relate to the most? Well, I mean, well, definitely the main character. Like, not for the same reasons. Obviously, I have not been thrown in prison for intolerable years in captivity. But, you know, I have experienced things where people have treated me in a way that I'm very bitter towards them. I can get the feelings that he had in this book. Like, I relate to that, and then I relate to how he ends it. So, there you go. If you don't know how it ends, then you don't know. But if you want to read it and understand what I'm saying, you totally should. Next question. Alternative title. I don't know. I have a few ideas, but they're all things that I feel like really kind of ruin the story. I'm just gonna say them right now and then maybe just edit it out. So sorry guys if you're watching this and you just, there's nothing there just then, because I just probably edited it out. Okay, favorite quote. So this is very beginning. So chapter 9, page 34. Well, the quote is a little bit shorter, but I'm going to read you the whole paragraph just so that you kind of get the context. Finally, having exhausted all his human resources, Dantes turned to God. He remembered the prayers his mother had taught him and found meanings in them of which he had formerly been unaware. For the happy man, prayer is only a jumble of words, until the day when sorrow comes to explain to him the sublime language by means of which he speaks to God. I just thought that was really touching and really deep. And you know, when you read this kind of stuff and you just feel like philosophical, like that's how I felt when I read a lot of this. I was like, man, so deep. And then let's see, I just wrote this down. Page 76, paragraph 2. Anyone else would have rushed forward with a shout of joy. Dante stopped doubtfully and turned pale. I mustn't let myself be shattered by disappointment, he said to himself, or else all my suffering will have been in vain. He then began to climb down into the cave with a smile of doubt on his lips, murmuring the ultimate word of human wisdom. Perhaps. So I thought that was great. So those were two of the quotes. Obviously, I was a little bit more vigilant about the quotes when I very first started, and then I just kept reading and got so excited about the rest of it. Like, it was one of those things where I just, no time to stop and write anything, so. I'm sure there were many more. Those are just two of the ones I wrote down. For my favorite scene, the whole, not necessarily scene, but situation, I think the first time you meet Sinbad the Sailor. That whole situation and the way it ends at that point in time is one of my favorite scenes. Like, it made me so happy. Then, when the Count really learns, like, what's important at the very end. Like, that's really probably my favorite part of the whole book, is because you go through this and you see him growing and changing and becoming this person, and then at the end to kind of everything just culminate in him realizing, and not necessarily realizing, I mean, people kind of show it to him what's really important. Yeah, so that's my favorite part. Okay, about the ending. The ending for this book was absolutely perfect. That it just tied everything together so well, and that, like, although you're not certain of the future, you're also very, like, there's no, like, really loose ends. Like, even though you don't know for sure what happens, like, it doesn't say what happens to them after the ending. It leaves you in a place where you can kind of guess or assume where it was going for them. Loved it, thought it was perfect, but it was one of those where I was like, it ended, and I was like, no, it's over. How did it go by so fast? I thought I had so much more time with these people, but perfect ending, 100% satisfied, would recommend. And then the last thing, question for the author. Now this is another thing where it's basically like spoiler heaven. Like, anything you ever really would ask would generally be spoiler. So I'm gonna just say something that's very general, and if you've read it, you would know. Or if you're gonna read it, as you're reading it, you'll be like, oh, that's what Megan was talking about. Got it. I don't know why I use that voice for, that's not what anybody really sounds like. So, the part I would probably ask him about, towards the end, with Valentine. How it all happened. That's all I'm really gonna say about it. It's something where it's like, it hinted and kind of said what was gonna happen, and like, go step by step, and like, you didn't get to read what as they did it. That's not gonna make sense if you haven't read it. I feel so annoyed right now that I don't know how to say this, but it's one of those things where, like, I can envision it. I can see what happened in my own mind. Like, I've created, like, oh, I see what happened there and, like, what he did. But I also would have really enjoyed to, like, have it step by step laid out, of, like, actually having that part written down, or having even just the author just explain it to me, like, oh yes, this is what I was thinking as I was writing this part, and, like, what was going through my head that I imagined for this thing to have happened. It's one of those things where it's like, I don't really need it, but it would be cool. It's like having a sequel. Like, do you really need it? No, because it ends perfectly, and all of the character stories are perfectly ended. But I still want it. I wish he'd written a sequel, but alas, no. So yeah, that is it. There it is. That is my quick, I've filmed for like 30 minutes, so we'll see how quick it is when I finish editing it. And yeah, guess I'll just see you later. Bye.